On this episode of Uncommon Sense, the president of the Society of G.K. Chesterton, Dale Ahlquist, takes some time to catch us up on what is going on with the Society. From celebrations to conferences, there's a lot happening. Dale will fill in all the blanks, coming up next. Greetings, salutations. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Uncommon Sense, the official podcast of the Society of G.K. Chesterton. I am Albert Sines, and as always, joined with my wonderful co-host, Grettely and Albert. Grettely, how are you?
I'm good today. How are you, Albert?
Doing very well, thank you. And as mentioned in the introduction, we have been able to carve out a little bit of time for the president himself, Dale Ahlquist, to join us from the road. Dale, how are you, sir?
Greetings, Albert and Grettely I'm in Oakland, California today, part of a whirlwind tour of Northern California, and it's been a marvelous experience so far.
So California is treating you good.
Yes, I have to say it is. The weather's been good, but the people have been even better. I've been hosted by one spectacular episode after another. We have Chesterton Academies opening up out here. I last night spoke at the C.S. Lewis Society of California. So it's been one great experience after another.
Well, that's wonderful. And you actually give us some good fuel to get started there because you said that you got some schools opening in California. Can you catch us up on what's going on with the schools network? Apparently, there's some good movement all around. Can you tell us what's happening there?
It's unbelievable. It's very exciting. 3 just opened here in Northern California, 1 in San Francisco, 1 in Sacramento, and 1 in the beautiful Yuba City. And I've been to 2 of their events so far. I'm going to be going to Sacramento here in a couple days.
Wonderful. It's like a new gold rush for knowledge out there.
Yeah, it is. That's a great way of putting it, too. The other exciting thing, Grettely, is that 2 of the places that I've spoken at want to start Chesterton Academies in the future. So I have a feeling there'll be 3 more out here within the next 2 years. And
Wow.
The other schools that are in the pipeline around the country, I think it's very likely that we'll have over 60 schools by 2023, and who knows what beyond.
Wow. That's excellent news to hear.
Dale, why is it, feeding off of what Grettely said, this gold rush of knowledge, what do you think is the big motivation between this sort of push for schools like the Chesterton Academy? Why are people interested in getting these schools opened as quickly as they can?
Well, I think we had a strange blessing come to us with the COVID shutdown. We were actually opening schools while other schools were closed, and it was a combination of parents wanting to get their kids in a school, any school, but then they also realized that when their children were home and online, they kind of it exposed how bad the state of education is right now. Parents got to see it firsthand, whether it was a public school or a private school, and parents were not happy with what they were seeing. And when they found out about the Chesterton Academy, they realized that this was a school that they could start in their own local community because we have all the templates for how to get a school started, a great curriculum, and they don't have to reinvent anything. We actually show them how to start the school, and it just put the power of educating their children into the hands of the parents, but in a way that went beyond, for instance, a homeschool setting, because it was truly a school with all the parts you need to make a really fine classical Catholic academy. And so it is like wildfire. It is a gold rush. Those are all good metaphors because people are very upset with the state of education today, and this is truly a solution, a really fruitful alternative.
I remember being at this last summer's conference and being there for the school summit, and to see several hundred people that, are educators, headmasters, these people that are so, devoted to this movement, we'll say, because I think it really is a movement. I think to make education better and to make it something that it hasn't been for probably a very long time, but to witness these people, I'm like, my goodness. Like, I look at the group photo that we posted in this last issue of Gilbert, and I'm like, look at all of those people, and every one of those people is devoted. It's not like there's 15 people that came to talk about opening a school. This was several hundred people, and I can only imagine that's just going to keep getting bigger.
Yeah, the excitement on behalf of teachers who are involved with Chesterton Academies, they are truly joyful to be part of a school like this, and they spread that enthusiasm to parents and to students, and you have all these joyful, excited communities around the country, and we truly are a network. We're all working together, and it's going across the whole country.
Now, what's most impressive to me about it too is that it sort of takes away all the scary stuff. As a parent, there's this terrifying feeling of like, if I wanted to start a school, what would that entail? And I love that the Chesterton Society the Schools Network rather, has packaged this up in a way that is doable for parents. And from start to finish, we're with them every step of the way, and it really makes possible what would not otherwise be possible.
It's absolutely true. I think when people realize if Dale Ahlquist can start a school, anybody can start a school. And I think I've been, an inspiration because of my own evident incompetence, and yet we have a really good model that works, and anybody can make it work.
Mm. And it does attract a high level of talent. I met some of the teachers as well, and I was just so impressed.
I guess we should say thank you, Dale Ahlquist, for your incompetency. I don't know if that sounds right. But no,
Sounds right to me. Albert sounds exactly right to me.
But who are we really, right? Except people who are just doing our best. With or without incompetency, we do our best for the Lord, and I think that you and the rest of the people that have come along the way are just doing amazing things with the Schools Network. So thank you. Let's keep moving down the docket here. I mentioned looking at a photo in the last issue of Gilbert, and that issue of Gilbert was very prominent because it was the 25th anniversary of Gilbert. Can you expand upon that for what that's like for the society?
Well, as unbelievable as the growth of the Schools Network is, I shake my head in disbelief to realize that we've been publishing Gilbert for 25 years, and I am exactly the same age as I was when we started the magazine. So it's really a great milestone, a great accomplishment to have put this magazine together for a quarter of a century. And the magazine keeps getting better, really, with every issue. We have excellent contributors. The great Ted Schlinderfritz, as our art director, does an amazing job creating a really beautiful magazine. And someone was saying the other day, how is it that you have, for 25 years, you've had a magazine devoted to just one author? Well, that's a tribute to G.K. Chesterton to show the variety and the depth and the richness of his wisdom. And he is like a bottomless pit. And we have been drawing from that, and we have plenty of material to draw from for the next 25 years. Chesterton continues to be a deep well that quenches our thirst for a truly close and joyful relationship with God. And I'm just thrilled to be part of that. The 25th anniversary, beautiful issue. And, I have to point out, Albert, that if you become a monthly contributor to the Society, you get access as members to the dashboard on the internet, so you can read the magazine and all the back issues too. You get caught up with a year's worth of back issues, and you can see how beautiful each issue is. But that's one of the great, not just a benefit of being a monthly contributor, but you're supporting this great work that continues to be so fruitful, continues to do things like the Chesterton Schools Network.
And the magazine I would like to point out too is a place where we are republishing some of GK's articles that have not seen the light of day since first publication. So apart from the excellent contributors that we have today, Dale and others, we have the privilege. I mean, I'm kind of a I always get my Gilbert magazine and I immediately read the Gilbert articles. That's my first read, and then I read everything else. But yeah, it's a wonderful way just for us to spread the joy of Chesterton through our contributors, but also to spread Chesterton himself in a way that he probably would not be published in any other way.
Yeah, rediscovering that timeless wisdom is such a great joy. I have so much fun putting each issue together and finding more great Chesterton quotes that are as timely and prophetic and to the heart of the matter as ever.
Dale, I'm curious because obviously you've been here for these 25 years of Gilbert. Could you say if there's any big difference from kind of where you started, your original intentions with Gilbert, from where we are now 25 years later, or has it been just a solid path? You haven't had to change the recipe. It's still as good as it ever was. I'm just looking for some sort of contrast if you could track that now over 25 years.
That's a great question, Albert, and I'm glad you asked that one because on the one hand, we are using the same formula. We had the my own philosophy going into it was if people read Chesterton, good things will happen. And we're just going to try to expose as many people to this prophetic insight of G.K. Chesterton. And that's been the motivation all along. Just keep getting new Chesterton material in front of people. But has it been a steady course, you ask? I think there were times when members of the staff nearly killed each other. And as there were just always competing ideas for how we lay it out in terms of how we present Chesterton. And I think what has always prevailed is you just present as much as Chesterton as possible. You don't just go with only, for instance, the theological stuff. You bring up the literary stuff. You bring up his ideas on social justice and Catholic social teaching, and you bring up his literary criticism and all the things he writes about. The more of Chesterton that we get out there, different people will latch on to different things, and then they'll discover the rest. He just is always pointing to the truth, no matter what genre he's writing in, and he'll always bring good things. And of course, he'll bring controversy too, and that gets people thinking, and the juice is flowing. Chesterton loved a good argument.
Amen.
Well, let's make sure that we enlighten people. We've been talking about Gilbert Magazine and about becoming a monthly contributor. If you are interested, any of our listeners, if you're not already a monthly contributor, go to our website at chesterton.org. Up in our top menu, you'll see a button for membership, and then click on Join Now, and you can see how you can join, how you can support the great mission of the Society. We would love to have you on board helping assist in the great work that the Society does, which also kind of also proliferates over into the schools network. So we're all doing something together, and you could be a part of that. So again, I invite you to visit our website, chesterton.org, click on membership, and then join now and find out how you can become a monthly contributor. So you had a trip recently. You went overseas for a grand occasion. You want to tell our listeners what that was about, Dale?
Well, we had been planning a pilgrimage that got canceled and rescheduled, and finally it got canceled. But a lot of us still went on the pilgrimage anyway, a shortened version of it to England. One of the main things that we wanted to do, this most recent version of the pilgrimage, was to be with Aidan Mackey on October 1st when he celebrated his 100th birthday. And we were still able to arrange that wonderful event. There were people there from 5 countries celebrating with Aiden. Talk about 25 years of a magazine. Well, 100 years of life. And the man is doing as well as he possibly could be, considering the fact he's 100 years old. He now walks with a cane. That's the only sign of his age that I could discern. He's just as witty and bright and humble and faithful as ever. And it was a great joy to be with him and celebrate his accomplishments. Because without Aiden Mackey, this movement would not be alive right now. He really was almost the only torchbearer of Chesterton in the what we call the Dark Ages, the 50s and 60s and 70s, when hardly anyone was reading Chesterton. Most of his books had gone out of print. Aiden was very faithfully collecting and preserving Chesterton's writings, so that we now have access to things that we probably would not have had otherwise, because he saved them. And so this was a truly great celebration. His great collection, his lifetime of collecting, has been acquired now by the University of Notre Dame in London, their London Gateway campus, and they've created a lovely room to display and to welcome scholars to study this material. And I had the privilege of going to see it. Their grand opening is actually this coming weekend. They've been planning this grand opening for 3 years, but COVID and other things have delayed it. But they have created just a beautiful, beautiful facility, and honoring Aiden as well. So great that he lived to see this wonderful installation of the G.K. Chesterton collection by Notre Dame. And Notre Dame has demonstrated that they really have a great devotion to protecting Chesterton's legacy. The collection has to stay in England. It won't come to America. But Chesterton fans should still visit the University of Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana, where they have another amazing Chesterton collection there. Probably between those two spaces, the best Chesterton collection in the world. And that was truly the highlight of this shortened pilgrimage. But some of the folks that were together, we visited some very important sites while we were in England, because we visited Tolkien's grave, C.S. Lewis's grave, Winston Churchill's grave, G.K. Chesterton's grave, and also the grave of Stratford Caldecott, who was a man that all of us knew personally who were there. And he was worked with Aiden, was a great Catholic convert who helped bring Chesterton's ideas to a wide variety of people, including John Canu in Sierra Leone, who sent a video message to Aiden and has started a Chesterton Academy in West Africa. And we had we had a great joy of watching 100 African kids singing "Happy Birthday" to Aiden Mackey.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's great. That is amazing.
I would venture to say that Aiden Mackey never thought that his legacy would be so wonderful, but that's amazing. God bless him.
And he's
for
the most selfless, humble man. He says, "Don't make it about me. Make it about Chesterton."
Beautiful.
We sort of did.
So just to finish off on that topic, you said a list of grave sites that you visited, and you listed Lewis and Tolkien, and those are kind of hot names for a lot of people, because obviously people know the Chronicles of Narnia, they know Lord of the Rings, and I think people would be interested to sort of have a summary of how Chesterton may have been linked to those two people. Is there a brief way you can sort of just explain, oh yeah, this is why they're important in connection to Chesterton?
Oh yeah, it's a gigantic connection. Even though Tolkien and Lewis never met Chesterton, they were both not only familiar with his writings, but inspired by his writings and affected by his writings. Tolkien wrote a great essay talking about how Chesterton's ideas about fantasy and fiction directly affected his own writing and inspired his own writing, but he also shows how Chesterton's understanding of fantasy fiction is why that genre is so important, because it was still a relatively new genre when these 20th century writers were embracing it, and then of course C.S. Lewis's connection is even stronger in that it was Chesterton's book The Everlasting Man that really played a key role in C.S. Lewis's conversion to Christianity from really an atheistic philosophy. And Chesterton's writings not only directly influenced C.S. Lewis's own Christian apologetics, but really essentially all of his writing. He owes a tremendous debt to Chesterton. I had a great meeting while I was there with two important scholars, uh, Father Michael Ward, who's written extensively on C.S. Lewis, and another Oxford educated Anglican priest named David, yes, Pinkerley, and he's a Chesterton scholar, and the discussion that they had about the influence of Chesterton on both those writers was quite profound, and it's one of the things I'll report on in my next Rolling Road article for Gilbert magazine, where I talk about the trip.
Wonderful.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's why you have to sign up to be a monthly contributor. If you want to read the next article and find out about what Dale's going to say, you've got to sign up. So I encourage you again, consider that. So, Dale, we look ahead to next summer, and it feels like we just came off of the 41st annual conference, but we are in full gear preparing for the 42nd annual conference. And there's some tidbits of information which the audience may want to hear. So let me hand it over to you to sort of do the grand release of some very important information.
Well, the theme of next year's conference will be Chesterton and St. Francis. The subtitle of it is The Juggler of God, Les Jongleurs de Dieu, a title of a chapter from Chesterton's book on St. Francis. And why is this the theme? Because 2023 will be the 100th anniversary of that book, the first book that Chesterton wrote after his conversion, and probably his thank you letter to Francis, who he said was with him all his life, accompanied him, was a bridge from his early life to the time he became a Catholic. And so we'll learn about St. Francis's influence on Chesterton and Chesterton's amazing exposition on Francis and his life and his philosophy and how it affected not only the Catholic Church but the whole world. He provides great insight, and we already have some great speakers lined up, Albert, and we have our keynote speaker lined up, and I'm really happy to announce that it's Bishop Robert Barron who will be our keynote speaker at the 2023 conference. And tell us the dates of that conference, Albert.
The conference for 2023 will be July 27th through July 29th of 2023. So we have some early sign up just to get more information. If you'd like, go to our website, chesterton.org, and you can click on the little link and submit your name and email so that when registration opens, you can be first in line to sign up for this great conference. Because, Dale, is it going to be the best conference ever?
Well, as I understand it, Albert, it is going to be the best conference ever, because we're bringing it back to my backyard after last conference that was in the Twin Cities was in 2008.
Wow.
And so after a long pilgrimage, a long odyssey, we're bringing it back to the Twin Cities. And it's going to be the best conference ever, which will give us the strength and the ability to launch it again to another city the following year. But it will be great to be able to host it this year.
We'll be holding the pillars of the church like St. Francis.
Yeah.
We do want to talk a little more about St. Francis, too, because I believe that for the Chesterton Society, this is kind of going to be a year of St. Francis for us. Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Well, Saint Francis is one of the universal saints, and so we're going to be focusing on him certainly for the year. As I said earlier, Chesterton wrote this book after his conversion, the first book he wrote. He chose the name Francis for his confirmation name, and his lifelong devotion to Francis is something that we're going to be reflecting on and returning to throughout the year. There are certain super saints, and Francis is definitely one of them. And I'm really I'm going to be going to visit Assisi in March, and so I'm hoping to draw some fire and strength from visiting Francis himself in March.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's been a little while since I've read the Chesterton's book on Saint Francis, but it will be exciting to revisit it. I think, the popular mindset, Saint Francis is, talking to the dogs and the birds, but there is so much more to Saint Francis.
Yeah, and that's the first thing that Chesterton writes about in the book, is that's the popular image, and he'll take us quite beyond that in the book. It's definitely worth reading for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dale, we've kind of gone through a lot of the major talking points here, but is there anything else sort of upcoming, from the perspective of our audience that they should know about going on with the society or the schools that you'd like to mention?
Well, as we see the schools continue to grow, I do want to point out that there's a wonderful regional Chesterton conference coming up in November. The Chesterton Conference Chesterton Society has hosted a local conference for over 15 years, and they will be hosting one again November 12th. So the second Saturday of November in Rochester, New York. I would really, if you're in the Northeast or anywhere else, that is such a great one-day conference to attend. And we'll have Joseph Pierce and myself will be speaking, and Ted Januszewski. How do you pronounce his wonderful Polish last name, from the St. Irenaeus Center? Just a wonderful, wonderful intellect with a great presentation. And we'll be talking, one of the things we'll be talking about is early English Catholicism. And so some of those great English saints that you think you know about, that's a great way to discover them at that conference. So come to Rochester, New York on November 12th.
As someone who, the Chesterton Conference was my first Chesterton Conference ever, before the national one even, I'm going to second that endorsement. It's a beautiful, wonderful experience.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have had the pleasure and the joy, the enlightenment of talking to Dale Ahlquist. We're always grateful to be able to get him on to catch us up. We've heard about the 25th anniversary of Gilbert. The Schools Network is doing amazing things, continuing to grow at a rapid pace. The pilgrimage, Aidan Mackey's 100th birthday. We say a belated and wonderful happy birthday to Aidan Mackey. The upcoming 2023 conference and the keynote speaker, Bishop Barron, all just great news coming out from the society. We hope that you are excited about the rest of this year and especially 2023. So many good things coming. Dale, thank you so much for taking some time to catch us up on what's going on.
Well, I'm absolutely blessed to be with you always, but it's wonderful to be able to report all this stuff. I continue to be amazed and in awe of all the things that are happening so good for the kingdom of God right now because of G.K. Chesterton.
Amen.
Amen.
And Grettely, as always, thank you so much for joining us. Glad to have you on board.
Thank you, Albert.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have been tuning in to Uncommon Sense. We're so glad that you have taken some time to listen to us. We hope that you will continue to tune in to Uncommon Sense on our next episode. And until then, remember, Chesterton is always better with friends. Talk to you next time.